Good morning, and thank you for joining Transitioning to Digital, How Do You Move Your Business Online? As a reminder, if you have any questions during the conversation, to please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Now here's your host, Paul Magel, President, Application Solutions and Technology Outsourcing, Computer Generated Solutions.
Everybody, and welcome. On behalf of Retailers United, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Retailers United is a charitable organization whose mission is to help small and medium brands and retailers navigate the challenges they face in today's marketplace and with these industries. Today's thought leadership webinar on transitioning to digital is one way we assist, along with awarding monetary grants, as well as providing mentoring opportunities for companies in the industry. My name, as you heard from Mara, is Paul Magel. I'm with Computer Generated Solutions. I'm responsible for our software group. You may have heard of our product line called Blue Cherry. It is responsible for back office supply chain solutions. Today, I'm here as a board member of Retailers United. I'm very excited. We put together a fantastic panel for you today, being moderated by one of the best retail industry analysts in the business. Deborah Weinswig is a globally recognized industry expert and thought leader, regularly featured on national business publications, TV, and does a tremendous amount of keynoting, leading industry conferences. Deborah is the founder and CEO of Coresight Research, a research and advisory firm that focuses on the intersection of retail and technology. Coresight provides its clients with insights and data to allow them to anticipate change and to profit from the disruption reshaping the global retail landscape we're living through today. Coresight's a global company with offices in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the United States. Deborah is one of the hardest working people I know. She's working full-time across multiple time zones. And without further ado, I'm proud to turn it over to Deborah.
Thank you, Paul, for that amazing introduction and for the huge difference you've made as part of Retailers United. The winners in retail during the crisis, as we've seen and we've heard about on many earnings calls, really quickly pivoted to digital, or kind of investing in digital and changing, whether it was last mile or kind of their social media approach, really to meet exploding online demand of nothing that we've seen in our lifetimes. The urgency does remain for organizations of all sizes to continue to focus on their digital businesses. And what we're seeing is last year, where it was kind of throwing a bowl of spaghetti against the wall and seeing what stuck, we are seeing a much more, I would say, strategic approach this year, as online shopping habits have really been altered for the long term, especially for certain demographics who'd never even been online to shop before. I'm truly honored to be here today with Prashant Agrawal, CEO and founder of Impact Analytics, Cara Buscaglia, Chief Innovation and Insights Officer of Talkwalker, Josh Gebhardt, CEO and co-founder of Amped, and lastly, MaryAnn Bekkedahl, SVP of Global Business Development of BigCommerce. We're going to discuss, or at least attempt to unpack, the key factors to consider when developing or reframing an existing digital strategy. So these include determining the best online selling platform for your business. Number 2, driving traffic to your online merchandise and understanding Google optimization. Number 3, how to use AI-powered retail automation products to empower automated complex workflows and really turn data into insights. And lastly, number 4, leveraging social media as a sales tool and the importance of being and continuing to figure out really a digital content strategy. So you, the audience, please ask us questions along the way. We will have a poll for you to engage as well. And with that, let's get started. So thank you to this distinguished panel. We really appreciate you joining us today. So Prashant, I'm going to start off with you. As we've seen at Coresight, right, with the world turning to data to really kind of extract insights, and for retailers to move quickly, can you discuss how Impact Analytics is uniquely positioned, and what pain points have you helped solve for retailers during the crisis?
Sure. No, great question, and thank you for having us. Thank you to you and Paul and the organization. I'll start with this, right? We in retail, whether it's brick and mortar or D2C or anyone, really start off with Sally, which is same as last year. What happened last year? And I'll actually then say, okay, I'm going to do a little bit better or a little bit worse. And that's never been a great way to do it. And it's not a way to do it at all now, right? I mean, 2020 is not how you want to predict 2021. 2021 actually is not how you want to predict 2022. So I think the first part is actually, how much should we buy, right? How much should we buy? How do we allocate and how do we price? And so I think the first thing to do is use your data to help you forecast both for the short term, the medium term, and the long term better. Right? If you can buy the right amount, you're going to do better. If you can get that right, the rest of it will flow. But then it's also, what's the assortment in that buy? How much do I want of each product, depth, breadth, all of that. And I think their data is incredibly helpful, right? So we've been doing this and we've been really helping retailers say, okay, let's not look at 2020, but let's look at 2019, 2020, and then recency. What's happened in the last 6 weeks? What's happened in the last 8 weeks? How have consumers changed? So we're actually meeting our forecasts to how consumers are going and not just what happened last year. Sally, it's not what you want to do.
No, I mean, I think it's always been a challenge for retailers. And, you know, you also can't utilize, right, 2019 as your base, because many companies have talked about going back. But, right, as our whole discussion is, you know, kind of centered around today, right, everyone's just kind of moved forward into digital. So I can see just how complex this is. MaryAnn, you know, BigCommerce is the world's leading cloud e-commerce platform for established and rapidly growing businesses. Can you discuss some of the challenges that retailers faced last year as they moved to digital for the first time or increased their digital penetration? And then, much to kind of what Prashant talked about, how do they think about this going forward?
Last year was quite a year, Deborah, for sure. Companies like ours saw unprecedented new business and literally businesses who were new to selling online, because of course they didn't have foot traffic because of the pandemic. They had merchandise in best case scenarios, they had merchandise in warehouses, and they had time on their hands sitting in their home offices. And it was the best time to finally set up that online business that they always knew they were going to do. Some of the challenges were not knowing how to do it. If they had waited until 2020 to start an online business, something had been blocking them. Fear, talent, a clear path forward. So here they were with a cold start, needing to go online for the first time and not really knowing how. Many of them figured it out in like kind of an agile mode, like get something out there and build upon it with learnings. And we've really seen, as the new year has started, you know, getting through holiday, starting the new year, it's all about optimization now. So what did we do right? What did we not do right? How do we go in and fix it and kind of shore up the platform or the business for continued growth? We are seeing a continuation of the gross merchandise value, GMV, the transactions online, like we didn't expect. Some of our competitors, other public companies have posted their first quarter results. It's unbelievable how the pandemic level spending has continued in growth mode into this year, even as people are starting to walk around and shop in brick and mortar again.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. So Paul and I, as part of, you know, the Retailers United board, we do help, you know, either, you know, kind of very early stage companies or those who were, you know, particularly impacted during the pandemic. And many of those who were particularly impacted didn't have an online presence. And we've, you know, they've been dealing with supply chain, as you alluded to. And so kind of getting online in some cases has been a barrier. For those who haven't kind of made that transition, how can you hold their hand and also just help them understand the importance of getting there?
I think it's a better time now than ever in that scenario, Deborah, to go with a platform that's got great ease of use and a low cost, you know, low cost, right? Because if you're going to mess up with your first time out of the gate, mess up on a limited budget versus messing up with a massive multi-million-dollar build. So companies like ours, which are SaaS solutions, are really easy. I mean, we have 60,000 merchants at various stages of growth using our platform for their online business. No joke, no exaggeration, you actually can set up a store on a platform like BigCommerce in about a day or two. If you've got a very hefty catalog, if you've got complexities to your product presentation, it will take longer. But you know, if you're selling stuff from home, if you're a small business or first timer putting 10, 20, 30 SKUs online, it can take an afternoon. So I think that's, and again, building in that agile fashion. So get something out there, see what works, try it again, improve it, enhance it. That's what we're seeing, what we're advising a lot of folks to do. And then there are agencies, e-commerce agencies, systems integrators, and consultants, mom and pops, all the way through to the Accentures of the world, who are there to help established businesses really set up a professional, out of the gate, strong online business as well.
That's great and very helpful. And And Josh, it seems like years ago, but from the time I met you at Metric Story, which I know is now Amped, I've really watched in fascination at how you've, helped empower e-commerce businesses. What do you think, kind of, building on, what MaryAnn said, what are the greatest opportunities for companies this year, right now?
Yeah, thanks. It's been a while, and it's been a fun journey. We started, with Metric Story, creating a data science engine to provide automated insights for our customers. And then just so happened we were working on this project with Google to take all of that data science to automate ad automation, kind of Gen 2, if you will. And we have seen just to echo what MaryAnn's saying, and highly recommend BigCommerce if you're going to pick a platform. We've seen them all, but it is so like the gold. It's like the gold rush of e-commerce 2.0 is happening right now, and there are so many solutions. Ours among there to really make it easy to get started. All you need to know is your business. Let the technology take care of the rest. And you can get started on pretty much launching your store, like MaryAnn said, within a couple of days. And we can help you get advertising started, as well as many other services can help you out.
Josh, what's the kind of time from a customer, kind of engaging with you to actually going live? And what are some of the challenges that you find in their organizations that sometimes slow them down? Because I think that's in my opinion, 21 is the year for speed. And
Yep.
That's why I think bring off, four of you together, that's what I think every one of you enables these companies to do. But it's, what are you saying, and how can companies kind of get out of their own way, really?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Again, please use whatever service you like out there. We get you started for free in about 5 minutes. So just truly, we can get you a Google Ads account created and get you $150 to start, thanks to Google. And then we'll actually start launching ads across your entire site, and in a very intelligent way. So you literally just need to know what you're selling. And there are other services besides Amped out there for sure, so check them out. But what I think the best way to get started is understand what your product. Obviously, you need an e-commerce platform, and go ahead and get those first ads out there, and you'll start getting the data, like we heard from Prashant, to understand what's happening, and then you can even use those automations to take recommendations and make changes that you need. I would recommend starting with shopping for all of you out there. We actually don't do that, but shopping's but the easiest way to get, sorry, when I say shopping, Google Shopping, it's where it launches your picture of your item for sale. Google search is the easiest way to get started, and again, that's where we help, and we have a lot of resources to get you started on that.
Great. And, building on that, Cara, Talkwalker helps world-leading brands activate the voice of the customer in real time by making sense of consumer and customer feedback across all channels. As I sit on several retail boards, and as we at Coresight, spend time with many retailers who have found it, if you can't kind of sit across from the customer, you're not getting those data and insights like you previously were, and understanding their pain points. So as these retailers and brands are feeling somewhat disconnected from their customers, how are you seeing them approach the customer in real time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will have to say, we can all agree that, MaryAnn, to your point, it was unprecedented times last year. And it was a really interesting time for us at Talkwalker, because we saw even more demand for our technology to be able to listen, especially for small, medium-sized businesses and retailers. You need to be able to listen and have your ear to the ground on what the conversations are happening. And I think what's really been interesting, especially as a small, medium-sized businesses, it's so important to create these direct-to-consumer brands, and they really have started on the foundation of social. If I have to be, a lot of them, think of all of the influencers that started out there in influencer marketing, and all of those influencers turned into retail brand forces in the world, like the Glossiers, the Kylies, the Ways, that really paved the way. So it's truly about being able to understand what consumers are saying on these different channels, creating communities, and then advertising and making minimal investments, whether they're on Google or Facebook or your different channels, is a really great way that you can leverage that voice of the customer and then start engaging with them. And then once you create that consistent feedback channel or conversation channel on these various different networks or different online and offline channels, then you can start using data and analytics to make sense of that information to inform your and shape your strategy. Maybe it's optimizing, creating more personalized messaging campaigns. Maybe it's tweaking your product offering or creating a new product or partnering with someone based on your consumer demands. But my biggest piece of advice for everyone is you have to listen to your voice of your customer. And that's going to be the key to success if you're going to drive revenue for your organization on whatever channel that is.
You know, Cara, it's really interesting. If I go back into my days at Citigroup, I remember the former CEO of Kohl's talking about, if we just listened to our customers, right, we could have figured this all out and saved all this money that we spent on consultants. So, I mean, it's all right there kind of in front of you. And, you know, when you see conversion rates that are low or lower than expected, you know, kind of what advice do you know, or how do you kind of talk to some of these retailers and brands? And how do they maybe not only interpret what they're seeing or think about it differently, and what actions do you see them taking based on the data that they're getting from Talkwalker?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, step one is listening to the different channels, and these are the channels that you're actually on from like your own perspective. So you need to understand what's happening on those various channels, but then you also have to listen to the more organic conversations that are happening out there online, blogs, forums, and then incorporating that with some of your behavioral owned data that you're getting from people actually purchasing your product. And if you correlate that together and to understand what are your top customers, who are they, what are they interested in, what are they buying, and really cater to that audience to be able to continue to develop your product and drive conversion. Look at what Amazon has done. Look at, they've created Prime. Right? I know this is a huge example, but it's something to aspire to be because it's such a simple concept. They created a rewards program to actually, incentivize their top tier customers to buy more and giving them just a simple, free shipping, which really drove our entire community. So I think that's a small little change in your strategies. You can offer your top customers an advantage to being top customers. I also think in this last year, we saw a rise in discounters and promotion codes that consumers were really driving. There was a lot of uncertainty around the economy. People were feeling a little strapped for cash in the current situation. So there was a huge opportunity for a lot of our customers to create different reward programs. So again, small adjustments, minimal investments that you can make that drive a huge impact. And it's all about understanding what's going to make sense for your brand. And you have to listen to understand where that audience is to be able to make those types of decisions.
So we've got questions, we've got polls, we've got all kinds of things. So let's start with the polls, because like in my gut, I kind of thought, but I have to say, Prashant, if you look at number 3, it's even more of an opportunity than I had expected, right? Are you using AI-powered retail automation products to empower automated complex workflows and turn data into insights? Only 22% of those who responded. So like I said, it's one of those things that I feel that, retailers are talking about, but it does almost seem like more of like they'll have the discussions this year and kind of decide on how to do that and then implement it next year. It's just, I think it can be very overwhelming. I don't know, where did that fall in terms of what you thought?
So Deborah, I'm going to answer that question. Then I have one quick comment as well. I think that every merchant, every retailer we meet wants to do it, right? They know that they need to do it. And everybody, Coresight, I think would have had a report on it, that if you want to be a successful retailer by 2023, this has to be in your ecosystem. If it's not, you're going to be losing money. It actually helps sustainability as well, because you're not throwing away or having products at reduced margin cost. I think it really depends on the leadership. If there is a CEO, a CXO, and she's willing to drive it, then change happens. Until that top layer is willing to do it, nothing else happens, and you'll have mid-level people saying, yes, we want to do it, but there has to be top-driven change. And you're seeing more of it, right? I mean, the street is demanding it. At the end of the day, we've actually worked with two of the most successful, two of the big IPOs in retail in the last 6 months, and they're all using our systems. Slight plug there. But you have to do it, right? You have to do it going forward. And then just one other quick thing, Deborah, what Cara, MaryAnn, Joshua, and I think Paul were saying in terms of our own businesses have seen huge demand. We have $1 trillion in cash sitting with consumers right now. That demand that we are seeing as providers, customers actually are providing that cash to our retail partners. And that's not going to stop. Right? That's not going to stop over the next year. This economy will boom. There's extra cash. And the time to do any of the change that people are talking about, any of us, is now, right? Whatever you think demand is today, it's more than likely actually going to sustain itself for the next year and a half, given the amount of retail consumer firepower that's sitting on the sideline. Yeah,
no, it's an excellent point. And I mean, just because the numbers are easy to understand, right? In Canada, for example, $25 billion was saved by the consumer in 2019. Last year, it was $200 billion that they saved. And so that's right. Those numbers are consistent, whether you look at the UK or the US, right? That same magnitude. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, yes, will they spend some of it on experiences? Absolutely. But in some cases to, enjoy that experience, a wedding, a special celebration, vacation, going to the theater, right? They're going to want to potentially get, the clothes in my closet have been there for 2 years now, untouched. I'm like, if they fit, right? That's a whole nother thing. But, there are, I think, huge opportunities. I think it's an excellent point.
And we're going to want a peacock. I mean, if you're apparel, we're going to all, we're wearing blue. We're joking about blue on Zoom, but when we're in real life, blue's not going to be the color we want. It's going to be.
Yeah, I just want to add something, and I'd love to see what the group said about this, but something that I found really interesting in the last couple months is obviously from retail fashion and beauty perspective. Fashion, obviously, people weren't buying as much, so it turned into more leisure clothing, but I thought it was really interesting in a lot of our data and a lot of our customer conversations, beauty had such a big moment during this time, which I thought was really fascinating. Like while people are at home, not leaving, like the amount of conversations, the amount of people sharing their routines and almost finding a sense of release and creativity with that. I would love everyone's comments on that.
I'm actually going to say something back to what Prashant talked about, which is this whole idea of sustainability. And right, there's this big clean beauty movement. And so in some ways, right, the beauty industry, right, by doing the right thing, they're also creating a significant amount of demand. Mm-hmm. And I think that is, and because there's been such a move to online, right, with all these tutorials and the ability to kind of buy during like a stream, many of you are powering all of that. I don't know, Josh, what have you seen from that perspective?
Yeah, it's we have seen a lot of beauty brands and health supplements and things like that. I'd have to look at our data to get, because we have thousands of companies, e-commerce companies using, and I wasn't quite prepared with that. But I would say, I was also noticing a question, how do brands decide on what channel to sell on? If I could just comment on that for a minute. You want to try them all. And when I say all, you want to at least do the major ones, right? Facebook, Google. If you're selling on Amazon, you're going to want to try and advertise and put some effort there. And then look at the data, right? Look at what is actually, don't spend all of your money at once. Start with at least a few $100 to $1,000 to really kind of test the waters. If you spend too much less than that, you're not going to actually see the right data, so you won't know if it's actually working. But then just look at the data coming in and then optimize from there. That's completely, return on ad spend is, obviously always been a marquee for anyone in retail, but especially on e-commerce. You can measure it now. So make sure that those are being done the right way, and then double down where it's working. And that's where your customers are. You can re-ask another part of that question if I didn't answer.
No, I think we actually have a great question from Donna, and I think this kind of summarizes the whole reason we're here. So I want to thank you, Donna. So with the financial investments in order to have a successful platform, social advertising and incentives, when does an e-commerce sales plan become profitable? And I think that actually was kind of like the weight on so many, on the backs of so many of the companies you're trying to help at Retailers United. And then do you lose money the first year? When are you breaking even? And when do you make money? MaryAnn, maybe you can kick us off there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer to that is, of course, it depends. But a platform like ours and our competitors, you can start setting up an online presence for $30 a month. No joke. Even if you're a big brand, Procter & Gamble is a big commerce customer. They've got about 130 branded sites running on our platform, and they're not spending millions of dollars for those 100+ sites. So it really is, depending on your AOV, what you're selling, you can put 10 products online, see what happens. From a big commerce or similar platforms control panel, you can also experiment with these different channels. I see a question of, the same question Josh was addressing around which channels to sell on. So you can take your entire catalog, you can take a subset of your catalog, you can spin up a store for $30 a month. If you want more features and functionality, it might be 80 or 300, but we're not talking about six-figure builds at any time until you are really, really, really hooking up all the infrastructure, your ERP, your PIM, et cetera. Selling online can be very, very cost effective. You sell a couple things, you sell a couple more, and then you tiptoe into Amazon, Wish, Walmart, eBay, et cetera, using that same infrastructure, that same control panel, and toggle with pricing and presentation from there. I think it's interesting on the channel side to bring fresh eyes to the different channels. 40% of American consumers bought something off of Walmart in the past 3 months. We all think of Amazon first, but Walmart is, I believe, the second or third largest online marketplace in America. Wish used to be something, and now it's something else. Wish is phenomenal, and actually higher end brands are taking advantage of their mobile first shopping experience. So you've got American Eagle, or maybe it's Abercrombie and Fitch, Estee Lauder, Puma, and others selling on Wish today, whereas they might not have been 5-6 years ago. So it's worth taking a look at the different marketplaces and seeing where your products fit, and then spin up an inexpensive platform from which to test the different marketplaces.
Well, there's no downside, right, of selling across multiple marketplaces, and the chance for discovery, but also for you learning something about yourself as a brand. I mean, Prashant, how do you, right, especially from a merchandise perspective, which we obviously spent a lot of time there as well, if you're selling on multiple platforms, how does that complicate your business?
So it does, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that does complicate your business a bit, especially if you have storefronts and you want to allocate to your storefront, now e-commerce, and then you have buy online, pick up in store. I can ship from my store. So this is where you can't do this in Excel anymore. You need merchandise systems. I think the good thing about it is having multiple channels makes it much easier to get a higher AUR, because you can figure out where to send it. But you have to have the right systems, not to plug us again, but you have to have the right systems to do that. It is more complex. It's also more profitable at the end of the day.
That makes a lot of sense. This is a good question from Tammy. How does a small company that is new to the digital world and e-commerce operationally handle the pivot to digital, processing orders, warehousing, logistics? And are there services to support these needs? Whoever wants to take that.
I mean, I would say the how is like quickly would be my first answer. But yeah, I mean, I'd be happy offline, Tammy, I think it is, to direct you to an e-com agency, like I mentioned earlier, mom and pop shops, 1 or 2 people serving as consultants to kind of help you set up the architecture for your connection between your ERP and your warehouse and your logistics through to the front end presentation of an online storefront. It's actually simpler than you might think, because platforms like ours, in fact, all of the platforms, have really strong, like one-click integrations or fairly simple integrations to the majority of the infrastructure that you're already using. So you're not the first to take this scary step, and there are consultants, systems integrators, and kind of e-com design agencies out there to help.
And I want to also play a little bit of a devil's advocate on and just kind of talking through something. I know there's a lot of different marketplaces out there, and I think you have to decide as a brand, especially as you're starting out, what kind of brand do you want to be? Do you want to be in all of these different marketplaces and actually have a voice in all of them, and you have to figure out your distribution channels? But I think also in this last year or so, we saw a big trend of brands realizing that maybe it's best to just go direct to consumers and build out their own e-commerce site on their own platform that's easier to manage and control, and you lose and you can help invest more in your business in that way. But even some of these bigger brands have turned back the dial in time to try to figure out how to get away from a lot of these distribution channels, because it turns into a logistical nightmare. So if you're starting out, I would highly advise that you kind of consider the different pros and cons of just building up your own e-commerce strategy by investing maybe in social channels. Facebook is an incredible driver to make minimal investments and get really great results on your website if you do it right, as well as some of the other channels, instead of focusing on spreading and distributing. So I think it's just something that you need to consider what's going to make most sense for you in that scenario. But both are good options, but both come with different layers of complexity. So really consider that as you're making this digital move and what makes sense.
That's great. All right, I'm going to lightning round and then I'll turn it over to Paul to close this out. I feel like we just scratched the surface here. So if a small, let's say under $5 million brand who is currently offline, if they were looking to get online this year and to sell more product, what would they do? MaryAnn, we'll start with you.
I mean, I can't not shamelessly plug, like go to bigcommerce.com and start a free trial, 15 days free trial, $30 a month from there if you like what you see, or contact me directly and I'll help you through the process.
Hey, we're here to help all these guys. So
that was such a setup, Deborah.
All right, Cara, you.
I think if you've got that business, you have to determine your strategy first. What do you want to do? What are your objectives? Who are your customers? I think it's also important. Are your customers online or are they offline? So I would do a deeper analysis on who your customers are and where you want to tap into those different markets so that you can determine where they are and focus on those channels that are going to drive for your strategy.
Thanks, Joshua.
Look, there's a renaissance in search. I got to shamelessly plug. Plus, I want to give an offer for free to everyone who's attending. If you write in through our messaging when you download our app, or you can do it directly from our website, amped.io, we will give you a free 3 months of our service if you qualify all the way up to the full service. So that's totally free just for people on this panel. And we can get you started in about 5 minutes. Even if you don't have a Google Ads account, we'll get you up and running, and then we'll help you we can even give some more advice on how to kind of allocate to the rest of your channels. But if you're gonna get started, Google for sure, Facebook for sure, no question. You wanna test both of those channels. They are the two Goliaths out there right now. Amazon's coming up, but you wanna get started advertising on those, and we're the fastest and easiest way to do that, and we wanna help you. So just mention Coresight when you message to my team.
I love you, Joshua. This is great. And Prashant, take us home.
Yeah, no, I think that I'd echo what everybody here is saying, and I'd say build your foundational data layer, right? Make sure you're capturing that data. It's useful now and then useful later as well. And we're happy to help you forecast. If that's something that you guys need, just write to me or my team, and we have a simple forecasting tool that I think can do wonders for you.
Great, thanks. You guys heard it today. Paul, take us home.
Again, fantastic job, panelists. You did a great job, great conversation. I would tell you that transitioning to digital is not a new topic, but for many, it's the topic. So again, I think it was a great conversation. I want to thank everybody who attended and took the time to listen to the conversation. We will send a follow-up email to everybody to give you some further information, give you a little more information on the offers that were given out on the panel today to help you. And again, for Retailers United, if you think that it's an organization that can help you or that you actually can help, go to retailersunited.org and take a look at what we're doing. So again, thank you everybody, and enjoy the rest of the week.